Welcome into CHGO White Sox Podcast. I'm Sean Anderson. I'm the host of the CHGO White Sox Podcast. This podcast is presented by PointsBet. Use promo code CHGO when you sign up to live your bet life. I am Sean Anderson. Welcome in to our CHGO studios here in the West Loop. You can follow me on Twitter at Sean_W_Anderson. And today I'm joined by my guys, Vinnie Duber and Herb Lawrence. Vinnie Duber, the man in the mustache and in the great John Prine shirt. You can follow him on Twitter at Vinnie Duber. And the man in the middle, Herb Lawrence, you can follow him on Twitter at Ecknerwall23. You can follow us, Chicago White Sox, CHGO White Sox. I keep saying that. I said that twice today. I don't know why today. After,
that's what it stands for.
After 6 podcasts, now I'm saying the full city name, even though that's not the company name. So CHGO White Sox. You can follow us on Twitter at CHGO_White Sox, and you can follow CHGO Sports at CHGO_Sports. Thank you for all of your support so far. It has been very overwhelming and very, very fun to see, and we're excited to discuss baseball. It is back. We are excited to talk about real action. Rick Hahn met the media today. Vinnie asked him some great questions. We'll get some audio to you from Rick Hahn, the White Sox general manager. We'll be talking about some free agents. Kind of did this with the trades yesterday. We made some trades, some fake proposals for you, and now we will pick a free agent that the White Sox should go after in our minds. And then we will start off with the most important thing. Spring training is started. Players are reported. Liam Hendriks is swearing up a storm on the mound already, Vinny. You talked to Rick Hahn. We're going to go into some spring training storylines. But first, we got an icebreaker. In that media availability, Rick Hahn was asked by ESPN 1000's Jesse Rogers and ESPN's Jesse Rogers, who was his first call? Who was Rick Hahn's first call at the after the deadline passed? And Rick Hahn, I'm sorry, this is bad. Rick was asked by Jesse Rogers, was there an agent or player that you called right away? And Rick Hahn, very succinctly, very briefly, with no emotion, said, yep. So the question is, left it very open-ended for us, who was Rick Hahn's first call? Vinny, I'll go to you.
Yeah, that's a good question. Who was Rick Hahn's first call? I think the serious answer might be somebody like Scott Boras, right? I mean, he's got so many guys out there on the free agent market right now that I'm sure a lot of people's first calls were to a lot of GM's first calls were to Scott Boras last night. But yeah, I'm sure there's some funnier ones that the folks on Twitter thought up. I would like to think, maybe he called up, Luna Carpeting or Empire Carpet, go with a famous Chicago number that you're always told to call. That might be the one.
773-202, boop, 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 Luna.
Matt Ryan in the chat, not Matty Ice, the other one. He says Rodon, which would have been my choice. There was a couple of parts, and we'll get to the audio. I think that he left the door open possibly for Carlos Rodon, or at least that's what I'm thinking. But who was his first call? Who was Rick Hahn's first call?
100%. It's Scott Boras. Scott Boras runs baseball.
Working on that cease extension.
Exactly. Cease extension, Chris Bryant coming through. That's
Bryant.
Yeah, Chris Bryant coming through. He's like, hey, he wanted to check in. I think Rick is leaving no stone left unturned.
Castellanos, too, is a Boras guy.
Boom. Yeah, like making sure that, hey, we have interest in your client. Don't sign a deal without us getting a notification on them because we want your client, X, Y, or Z, whichever one it is. I think everybody called Scott Boras first.
I think his first call was Scott Boras, and I think his second call was Farhan Zahadi, the general manager of the San Francisco Giants, letting Boras know Dallas Keuchel's on the move to San Francisco.
Gotcha.
They've already worked out that deal. But I posed the question on Twitter. No wrong answers. Who is Rick Hahn's first call to? Someone said Carl Everett. My guy Alex said Daniel Palka. Janice, a contributor here for CHGO White Sox and the new host of the CHGO Sky podcast. She said Pizza Hut. Which,
Herb would be all about that. She must have been tuned into Herb's rant yesterday.
Callback.
Yeah.
People loved saying Liuri was his first call. Mine, I agree with Paduda, who said Carlos Rodon, I wish. And then my favorite one was Sean Figgins from White Sox Truther. And then someone responded and said, he said Rick, not Kenny, which I know Herb got a laugh out of. So that was the icebreaker. We have Greg Miller also chiming in. This was another one that we saw. Called Jerry to see if it's okay to give out a $100 million deal. And Fred says Hahn called to see if someone wanted Kimbrel, which that's a real answer right there.
Right.
But he's probably been making that discussion, and those phone calls could be made, at least from my understanding.
And I'm just surprised that it didn't happen as yet. Those conversations
Nothing did, right?
Yeah, could have happened already. Maybe Rick's just holding his powder just so, that was a good deal. Good job, Phillies or Nationals or whoever team he had a conversation with. But it wants to see a better deal. Maybe somebody is desperate for a closer, and Craig Kimbrel will be the person to fill that spot. So, yeah, if Rick Hahn is calling anybody for Craig Kimbrell, I thought that deal had already been done. So I'm very disappointed. We have no action except for Martin Perez?
Yes, Martin Perez making his much anticipated return to the Texas Rangers after being with Minnesota in 2019.
They're dancing in the streets of Arlington, Texas.
They are. This is bigger than Corey Seager, bigger than Marcus Semien. It's Martin Perez. He's returning.
I just think all these GMs and are just very cautious. We want to make sure that no one acts and thinks that we called the player or an agent during this lockout, because the last thing we want to be is cited by MLB or one of the players and say, hey, you talked illegally during the off time. We can't do that. Just make the damn deal. We all know you talked. It's like Lovey sitting at Julius Pepper's house at 12:01 on free agency. Come on now. Let's stop the tampering garbage. I know with the Bulls, Lonzo Ball, the same thing. We're fine, guys. Sign somebody. Somebody have some action. We're on pins and needles.
Buster only reporting that a veteran agent says that 6 to 8 deals are currently in the works, so we might be getting more.
Agreed to,
but again, they haven't been announced.
He said the words agreed to. So why are they not out here?
I don't know. I mean, what was the vibe that you got from Rick Hahn? Because, Jesse Rogers, which started this icebreaker, was trying to get a cheeky response from Rick Hahn, and he did with the just very, melodramatic yep. But I think that, it feels like there are conversations happening, but it still feels like they need to negotiate. The free agent market hasn't been open for over 100 days, Vinny. I mean, what was the vibe from Rick Hahn on what negotiations have been like so far?
It's weird. I really kind of got this, usually the first day of spring training, we hear from Rick. You know what I mean? He gives kind of a welcome to spring training. I think James Fegan even brought it up in the interview session, saying usually on the first day of spring training we ask you who's all injured. You know what I mean? That's usually kind of the news to come out of those kind of press conferences, because the offseason business has been done for a month or more already. But this is a very unique situation. It's hopefully the only one of these we're ever going to see. But yeah, I mean, I didn't really get a vibe that anything was going on. But again, as Rick always likes to remind us, the White Sox do their best business when nobody's paying attention kind of thing. So it was very much a, hey, everybody, the lockout's over press conference to me. There was nothing really to report. There was nothing really in terms of spring training yet, because Rick is not at spring training yet. He said he'll be going tomorrow. So it was odd. It was kind of a, hey, we're allowed to talk to you guys again. And so nice to see you kind of thing.
I think, who is it? Jed Hoyer or Theo Epstein once made the call into 670 The Score and said, I'm doing this out of obligation, which it felt like, and I don't think Rick was, Rick likes baseball. Rick wants to be back, and he seemed excited about baseball being back. But again, the White Sox are very, very covert and not a lot. Was really announced. There are some newsy stuff that we're excited to get into in just a little bit. But White Sox spring training storylines. I mean, opening day pretty much for spring training. We see Liam Hendricks there. Tim Anderson's there. Your guy Wes Kath is getting swore at by Liam Hendricks.
He's been there. Wes Kath has been there. It was funny. Me and Herb were saying there's all these videos coming out of Camelback Ranch of Colson Montgomery and Wes Kath taking all the big league pitchers deep. And I turned to Herb. I go, yeah, of course they are. They're the only guys that's been swinging a bat for the last week and a half.
And Vinny's asked, would you want Wes Kath over Lurie at second? And I thought about it for a really long time. And
Wes Kath, who doesn't play second base.
Exactly. I was like, oh my God, what am I? My hatred and or distaste for Lurie is actually clouded my judgment. God, I can't believe that. I was like, yeah. No, Lurie. Okay, Lurie.
Andrew
Get back
Vaughn
to regular her. Come on
also
now.
Didn't expect to be drafted and play second base. I don't think Jake Berger expected it either. So, hey, Wes Kath, start taking grounders.
He is a shortstop in high school. They're going to try to convert him to third base. So he has the skills. If you're a shortstop, you can play anywhere.
He's pretty tall, though. 6'4" is a pretty lanky second baseman. Yeah, like LeMahieu. Corey Seager's pretty big. He's a middle infielder right there. And Fred saying, speaking of injuries, I was happy to see Lynn out there cautiously optimistic. We'll get into that in a little bit. I think Rick Hahn addressed that enough, and there's a bit that we need you to hear about that, because I'm a little iffy on Lance Lynn, but we'll talk about that. But let's get into the spring training storylines. We'll go to Herb first, because you were the one that started this whole conversation. You pitched this idea. You think the White Sox and the CBA have a very fun or at least interesting relationship with the new CBA that's been announced, huh?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of new rules that are going to be implemented that hurt the White Sox. I mean, when you have a 12-team playoff now instead of the 10-team playoff, it makes another team in the American League be able to beat you. That is not good for the White Sox. That makes
this is from Daryl Van Scowen. Wes Kath, lefty swinger, took Crochet deep too.
Yeah, he said
that.
Yeah.
Okay, that was the
sorry.
one.
No,
I didn't know if I don't know if he hit another one.
Wes Kath is going off today.
Yes,
I'm telling you. I had to think about it for a second. Wes Kath is the man. He's only 19, guys. But, yes, I was thinking 12-team playoff, not good for the White Sox because more people are in the tournament. Anybody can win them. Now the first round, also best of 3 series. Mm-hmm. Not great. Not awesome for the White Sox. They have to get the first 2 buys. I think in the American League and the National League, they have the top 2 division winners get those buys. White Sox need to be aiming for those so they don't get beat up and caught up by the Twins or the Royals or the Guardians.
Right, and you did no swear jar for Herb in that one.
And I just think, this is our time of contention. So, yeah, that's not great for the White Sox. And one thing I think White Sox fans hold dearly is Game 163 versus the Twins. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, they said there's no longer a 163. There's not in the next CBA. The 5 years going, no 163. Tiebreakers, NFL style. So back in 2008, when the Minnesota Twins won more games versus the White Sox than the White Sox won versus the Twins would have been going to the playoffs immediately. If that happens in the future, that's what's going to happen. So that's not a good scenario, and we don't have those magical moments like Tommy hitting a ball out of the stadium.
He got a statue for it. I mean,
Ken Griffey Jr. his one contribution to the White Sox, and Brian Anderson with a great catch. That's electric. That won't happen ever again.
And they love the gimmick so much, they're bringing it back for every postseason game now, too. I mean, the whole blackout thing that started in 2008, and you're seeing it now in 2021 when they have Game 3 and Game 4. They're trying to get that back and trying to recapture that energy, and that was something really unique to Game 163. I always loved those. I thought that was unique about baseball. You have to extend it. You need to figure out who is better. 162 wasn't enough. You need 26.3 miles to finish out the marathon. I really love that. I'm disappointed that idea has been erased from the game, Vinny.
Yeah, I mean, I think what it does do is it makes that 2008 moment all the more special because now it's extra unique because it can't even happen anymore. Mm-hmm. So I think in terms of folks who look back fondly on that moment, that probably only enhances the specialness of that of that moment. But yeah, I mean, I think what it does do maybe is it sets up a very kind of fun situation like there was just a couple years later when you remember the last day of the regular season, all that craziness that happened. Obviously, the White Sox weren't involved, but
Tampa and the Yankees.
with the Rays and the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Orioles all playing on that last night. I think the Braves clinched a playoff spot. The Cardinals clinched a playoff spot all on that last day. And maybe you got that now where you're looking at the tiebreakers and you can be, the White Sox need this to happen and this to happen and people can watch an entire day of baseball as opposed to just one game even to kind of determine their team's fate. That kind of is a little bit more fun, but certainly, yeah, the whole winner go home vibe is always something that electrifies folks. The thing that I'm most excited about in the new CBA, of course, no more of that terrible ghost runners on second. No more auto runners. I think I always referred to it when I was tweeting covering the games the last 2 years is that, let's say the White Sox are ahead by 3 and Liam Hendriks comes in. Liam Hendriks comes in coming in to try to nail it down. If he gives up 3 runs, it's onto the free runner innings. They weren't even extra anymore. They were free runners. I hated that rule, and I'm glad to see it come.
Well, and I don't know what's up with the MLB and like the spookiness, but like ghost runners, ghost wins, we're getting very haunted here in
October,
Major League Baseball.
Man. October.
Yes, October
and so we were talking the other day about long 9-inning doubleheaders. So it's not about the actual game being shorter for you because those ghost runners, I think, shortened those games.
Absolutely.
Like you barely went to 14 innings in those ghost runner era. So it's more about let's play real baseball.
For me, it was you should win or lose by succeeding or failing at what you're trying to do. And when teams were losing in the absence of failure, that to me didn't make sense.
Well, it also just seemed tough because, you could throw out like Garrett Crochet. Garrett Crochet can make a great pitch outside corner, and the guy just hits a bleeder up the middle, and boom, he scores a run. Like,
don't even think about it that way. Think about this: ground ball to the right side, sacrifice fly, strikeout.
Right,
1, 2, 3 inning could lose you a game.
Yeah,
and
I didn't love that, but I did like some of the action that was created. It did move games on a little bit quicker, and it did put more action in the game, and it created at least tighter games. And if you did go down by 1 in the top of the 10th, bottom 10, you just 2-run blast, and boom, you win the game. So, like, there is some excitement that I was created by it, but it's not baseball. I didn't love it. The 7-inning doubleheader thing, I'm a little disappointed that that's gone because, again, baseball needs to be shorter, I feel like, as a whole product, but it's not the end of the world. I'm not going to complain about more baseball. Let's go into one of the other storylines here. We don't have a clip from Rick Hahn. He did talk about it today, but this was a guy we talked about this week, Garrett Crochet. There was some news on Garrett Crochet and his usage in 2022. Rick Hahn said that it's going to be similar to the Michael Kopech role that we saw last year. We're going to see some length from Garrett Crochet, but we're going to see him in the bullpen for 2022. We discussed this week, kind of had the takeaway that it is an important year for Garrett Crochet. Hearing that the Sox are going to take the Michael Kopech approach with him in 2022. Do you like that, Herbie?
I think it for the player, yeah, Garrett Crochet, it's great. I don't like it necessarily for myself because I think Garrett Crochet profiles more of an elite reliever, but they're trying to maximize his worth and his value. So, yeah, stretch him out, see if he can succeed in those type of roles like Michael Kopech succeeded last year. And then next year, 2023, when probably Keuchel's gone and maybe some other people are looking elsewhere, or when you have Lucas Giolito on his last year of his contract, you could say, okay, Lucas, cool. I appreciate your number you're throwing at us, but we have Garrett Crochet ready in the wings to be the starter in 2024 when you ramp up. So, yeah, it's good for the White Sox to have options in that regard. And if he doesn't succeed at being stretched out, he's always going to be a great reliever, I think, especially with the 2-pitch mix that he has with the fastball and the slider.
Anything else from Hahn on the topic that we missed out, or is that basically the gist that it's going to be Kopech style?
I think that it will depend on what Crochet shows him in the spring. I don't think this is finalized, set in stone, and Rick said as much. But one thing that Rick said today, kind of maybe the standout quote for me from his whole thing was, people always ask about the kind of the goals, the aspirations, and, it's been the questioning has been in an incremental fashion. You know what I mean? Oh, what are your expectations this year? You guys want to get into the playoffs? Like, oh, what are your expectations this year? You guys want to win the division? And Rick Hahn said, listen, I don't think we'd be doing our job if our aspiration wasn't to do everything we can to win the World Series. Making Garrett Crochet a reliever for 2022 is a move to help the White Sox win the World Series in 2022. That is the best move for this team in 2022. That being said, I have questions on whether it can produce a big league starting pitcher,
right,
be it in 23 or 24. We'll find out, and so that will be not just a spring training storyline like the lower third says there, but a season-long and a years-long storyline with Garrett Crochet. I think that Kopech was obviously starting from a much different point. Garrett Crochet has no minor league experience to speak of, no professional starting experience to speak of. I don't know how successful, or I'm just questioning how successful can you turn a guy into a starting pitcher while having him be a bullpen pitcher for a championship caliber team. And we'll see.
Masters.
We'll see. Maybe it works out just fine. Maybe he does have to spend some time in the minors in the years down the road. For this year, the best thing to do for the White Sox in terms of winning the World Series is Garrett Crochet in that bullpen.
Yeah, and you mentioned the time and the difference between Kopech and Crochet. In 2017, Kopech in the minors threw 134 and a third innings. He also pitched in 2018, 126 and a third innings. And then he hit 69 and a third last year with his first full season with the White Sox in 2021. Crochet, 6 innings pitched in 2020, and then 54 and a third. So, he would need to add about 15 more innings to his workload to match Kopech's production, and Kopech was dealing with injuries as well. Crochet did a little bit as well throughout 2021, but, Kopech was a little bit sidelined. So, I think the goal probably for Crochet is 75 innings. I think that'd be a nice ceiling for him.
I'll just say that the difference between those two pitchers is last year with Michael Kopech, when he was making spot starts almost, I believe, exclusively in doubleheader games, was you put him out there and you're like, oh, okay, well, he can go 4 or 5 innings in a start. We've seen him do it before. Yeah. Garrett Crochet, again, has the ability maybe to do that, but if you were to put him on the mound to start a game, I would view him personally as more of an opener, rather than the starting pitcher who's going to give you length in that game. But we'll see. Garrett Crochet is young, and so maybe his arm is healthy enough, and he has the stamina to make that work.
And right now, looking at Kopech starts from 2021, he had a start of 2 innings, 3 innings, 4 innings, and 5 innings. So, we saw some, like the longest Crochet went, and we mentioned this back when we were talking about him, 3 innings against Texas back in April. And then, after that, it was like 2 innings and then, less. He really didn't get a lot of long outings in 2021.
Yeah, and so this is going to be a problem, I think, if you're serving two masters. As Vinnie said, 2022, you can only win the championship this year. So it should be, hey, Garrett Crochet, what can you do for us this year? And if it is stretching them out a little bit and that's best for the White Sox, do it. But if it's, hey, we're putting Garrett Crochet in this game, and yeah, he hasn't pitched well, but we're going to go for 4 innings. No, that can't happen. Garrett Crochet has to be put in the position to succeed for himself and succeed for the White Sox. That is paramount for Garrett Crochet and the White Sox.
And I'll say this too, and this is a nice segue because I think another huge spring training storyline is Michael Kopech.
Right.
What is he going to be like in his first year as a full-time member of that rotation? Michael Kopech is not expected to be this guy who's going to throw 7 innings for in 33 starts this year. So we'll see how that works. And I think the idea is that this year is going to be kind of a developmental year for Michael Kopech in a sense. Obviously, Michael Kopech has the stuff to help you win the championship this year. But Rick Hahn talked to us in November about, part of Michael Kopech's progress this year is to make him even better for 23 and 24 and the years beyond. So maybe Garrett Crochet is on a similar timeline where you're looking at, okay, they're going to use him in the bullpen this year, maybe every once in a while stretch him out, but then it's going to be a slow play kind of thing. We'll see if you can develop a guy at the major league level while you're trying to win the World Series, and I think that applies to both of those pitchers.
Well, and it's interesting, too, because, Kopech obviously proved that he can come out of the bullpen. We talk about Crochet as an opener. I just think that, it could be interesting, and, if you have a very heavy lefty lineup, 1 through 6, let's see what Crochet could do for the next 6 innings, and then, Kopech, let's clean it up, get us to the 7th. And also, too, like we heard this from Aaron Bummer back in spring training, the idea of that bullpen is give us the lead after 5 innings, and we will try to shut it down. That is their goal. That's their attitude. He said they'd go 90-0 in spring training last year once they had the lead after 5. So as long as you can get 5 innings, that bullpen is fine. So, it's just about piecing.
I was much more confident in that. I would have been much more confident in Bummer saying that about last year's bullpen, though, than I am about their current bullpen right now.
I don't know. You look at the bullpen. They have Kendall Graveman and Craig Kimbrell right now. They have more talent, I think, in that
volatility.
roster.
Is Kendall Graveman going to be the guy that showed up for the A's in 2021? Right. I don't know. You don't know if these guys are going to be the back.
Yeah, might not be there at all.
Yeah, the back of the baseball card is going to show up in 2022, especially with the lack of spring training we're having right now. We're having a huge ramp up. Pitchers need this the most.
Yeah, and something that Rick mentioned, too, is that they want pitching depth, and all 29 teams want pitching depth, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. But I think that, I think that talent-wise, the bullpen, if they keep Kimbrell and if they keep Graveman, it is more talented than the 2021 roster, at least on opening day. Because, I think what you're upgrading
with fewer names, though, I think. Because you've lost multiple pieces of that bullpen from last year that you're basically only replacing with Graveman.
Evan Marshall's not going to be pitching for the White Sox, and I was looking forward to him. And
Kopech.
Yeah, he's going to be gone. And I don't know if you're putting him in there, but my guy, Tempera, is going to be gone.
But opening day, when Bummer made that comment, he wasn't on the roster just yet.
I don't think the White Sox are the bullpen they were last year. At least I thought last year's bullpen was much better, as Vinnie said, than this year's bullpen.
Well, and also Aaron Bummer was much better in 20 than he was in 21.
The volatility right there. Every year.
And
most
of
what you're going to get.
Bummer stuff, too. This was a really rough defensive team last year. He's very reliant on ground balls. There was a little bit of luck, too, with Bummer.
Absolutely.
I think Bummer will bounce back in 2022. I think you'll see a better Aaron Bummer in 2022. Real quick, I want to mention CHGO White Sox Podcast is presented by PointsBet. Use promo code CHGO when you sign up to live your bet life. The best way to support CHGO is to download the PointsBet app and use the code CHGO when you sign up. If you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you'll receive a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of our web content, and you'll even get a free shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker. If you have any questions, email pointsbet@allchgo.com, and we'll help you. Remember that PointsBet is your home for live in-game betting. They even have a new exclusive feature, live NBA same-game parlays. For the first time ever, build the perfect live same-game parlay only with PointsBet, and you can boost your odds too. If you like your live same-game parlay, you get 1 boost on PointsBet. So if you can even make those odds just a little bit better using the live same-game parlay boost on PointsBet. And sign up is easy and fast. Download the PointsBet app right now and register from your account from start to finish from your phone. Signing up with the fastest sportsbook is now easier than ever, so you can start living your bet life in seconds. Again, use code CHGO to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. So what are you waiting for? Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. And we mentioned the premium written content. We are going to now be behind a paywall. The great articles that you got from Vinnie Duber this week, the A's fire sale, the Carlos Rodon, if they can make an extension together, all of that great content is now behind a paywall. You can become a member at allchgo.com. You'll get access to that written membership, and when you sign up, you get a free shirt, and you can get the Brawler White Sox that you see down in that corner on a shirt. It's black, it's nice, it's crisp, it's clean. You'll look great wearing our All CHGO merch. Again, All CHGO is the website. All of those free articles that were up are now premium written content. Only members can access that, but all these live shows, all these podcasts, and all of our post-game shows will be free to you. Now, let's get into Rick Hahn, our guy. A lot of storylines still from spring training that we can get to. I know that Luis Robert was mentioned in the chat. 28-1 odds for him to win the American League MVP. If you're using PointsBet, that's the odds right now. I really like that. If you think that Luis Robert can win the MVP, that's one of my biggest storylines, is I think that he can become a top 5 player in the American League. That's something that I'm ready to watch for. He isn't at camp just yet, so I can't talk about him. But it's exciting to see that Luis Robert has a lot of room to grow on that PointsBet leaderboard for AL MVP. But let's get into the man, the myth, the legend himself, Rick Hahn. He met with the media today for the first time. Weird vibe, like you said, Vinny, but also not, it was Rick Hahn.
It was weird because of the situation. That's what you know what I mean. It was the first comments from him since the lockout, since before the lockout, and so it was more of like, it was weird because it was like, why are we talking to you right now? And there's no moves to announce quite yet. He's not at spring training quite yet, so the why was just, hey, nice to see you. But yeah, he was asked a lot of questions, and he made a lot of general, statements of importance. Like I think, like he always does. General, like we have there the vision. You know what I mean? Laying out the broad strokes, kind of thing. I thought it was very interesting that he pointed at pitching depth as something that he is prioritizing, him and his front office. And it makes sense, right? Because you're talking about a year in which spring training is going to be shortened, in which the pitchers are thrown off of their routines. And this is coming off of 2 other abnormal seasons for pitchers. We saw just last year, the White Sox had the best starting pitching in the American League for about 4.5, 5 months, and then it seemed like everybody went on the IL at the same time. So, you're going to get the residual effects of all the way back to 2020 still lingering, and now you've got the effects of this lockout happening as well.
Absolutely, and we have 2 cuts that we want to play for you. We want to talk about Rick Hahn discussing a 6-man rotation, and then also improving the team as a challenge every single day. Vinny, you asked the question that led to the improving the team as a challenge every day quote that we'll hear. Before we get into the pitching rotation, because it is, I think, a more lengthier discussion. This one is, again, he didn't give too much on what the plan is, but I think this was the clearest idea that we can give. So what was the idea of the question that you were asking, and did you get the answer you wanted too? I always wonder this with beat writers.
If you're doing your job right, any answer is the right answer, right? And so I think anything can be informative if you're asking the right questions. And basically where I was coming from was specifically the Garrett Crochet answer he gave back in November, but he gave a similar answer in regards to a lot of issues, saying it's early November. Right. We're going to figure it out, kind of thing. No, we didn't. They didn't know what Garrett Crochet's role was going to be back in November. They needed to figure it out. Well, they just had 3 months to figure this out, where all they could do was talk to each other for 3 months. And so I was like, well, how did you guys use those 3 months to figure some of this stuff out? And I think he, correctly viewed it as a kind of a thing to talk about the offseason and the kind of moves that they're going to be making. And as he's about to say, as we're about to hear him say, it's very much not about right now, right? We didn't see all those moves happen right at the drop of the lockout like we thought we were going to see happen. And so I think that making moves, not just for the White Sox, but for every team in baseball, is going to be an extended thing, not from now, to put it in Rick's words, through opening day, but maybe even well past that.
And anticipation is making Lawrence wait. I could see it on his face. We're going to go to the audio now.
I'm just like, this is the first time we're doing this, so I'm excited for the CHGO inaugural Rick Hahn bite.
Let me set it up to you, and I'll point when you're ready to play. Are you ready, Lawrence? I'm ready. I'm excited to hear Rick Hahn. Baseball's back, baby. All right, Vinnie Duber, set it up. He said that he was trying to figure out what Rick Hahn was doing for the past 3 months. So what is Rick Hahn been up to for the past 3 months?
We had all sorts of different scenarios mapped out. What will happen if we're able to acquire this player? What does that lead to here? Sort of a, plan A through plan, I don't know, R in terms of different scenarios about how this would go. In reality, it's only been the last 18 hours that we're able to sort of see what's possibly viable and what's not. I guess the best way to put it is we know we have a team that's very capable of winning a championship as it is, but that's not going to stop us from continuing to explore every different avenue to improve the club. And when, it's easy for us to sort of do that in our offices and out at minor league mini camp or whenever we're able to sort of gather as a group of staff members. But really it's now you blend those plans with reality here over the next several weeks. And again, it's nice that we have the opportunity to get better now. Regardless what happens between now and opening day, we're going to continue to explore those opportunities well into the season and through the trade deadline. We know where we're at as an organization right now, and finding a way to get better is not going to stop tonight. It's not going to stop in a week once we start getting in the games, and it's certainly not going to stop come opening day.
I liked a lot when he said, we're going to explore every avenue. They're going to go down Electric Avenue. They're going to take every single option that's possible out there. But the big quote right there, Vinny, we know we have a team that's very capable of winning a championship the way it is. And yes, they're going to spend every night up until the trade deadline trying to improve that team. But that's the money quote right there from Rick Hahn's entire 30-minute media availability session. That's what fans wanted to know. What is his vision of the 2022 Sox? And I don't know if it's completely fair to say, we know we have a team that's very capable of winning a championship the way it is, but I don't think that's the thing that Sox fans wanted to hear.
Well, I think you're going without the context there, to be quite honest. Okay. I mean, I think that the rest of that quote was, guys, we're going to be working on this.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
And that's why I left the entire audio.
Absolutely. And I think that's very important. I think a lot of people will grab onto the part you said, like you just did there, but I think that there's more that goes along with that. Number one, what else would you expect somebody in that position to say? I don't think Rick should be expected to say, well, we got a huge hole at second base and we really got to patch up or we are screwed. Like, I don't think that's going to happen. And so you have to expect that from a PR standpoint, for lack of a better term. The other thing is, I think he thinks the White Sox roster is really, really good. I think the White Sox roster is really, really good. Can it get better? Absolutely. Will it get better? Most probably with what he's planning over the next few weeks. But I mean, yeah, with a couple notable exceptions, they've got a really good player at most every position. And I think you got to look at the success that they had from a starting pitching standpoint last year as something that they're going to be banking on getting again. I know people are very concerned about Dallas Keuchel. I know people have questions about Michael Kopech, as they should. But when you look at the type of starting pitching that they put together through the regular season last year, I think that's where you can point to them thinking, oh, that is the kind of thing that can win a championship. And I don't think that that's necessarily wrong. I do think that it's very important to follow up that sentence with, they're definitely going to go out and try to do some stuff.
Well, and it felt LeBronian when he's like, it's not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4. Like, it's like not today, not tomorrow. This is going to be in April. This is going to be in March. This is going to be May. This is going to be an entire thing up until July when we cannot stop making moves.
That's what contenders do.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So, I mean, Herb, you've been listening to coach speak, to front office speak for a long time in sports radio. What did you think of that money quote, as we call it?
Typical Rick Hahn media session. He's just giving you enough. He's affable. He's gregarious. People love Rick Hahn, but he's not going to give you what he's going to be doing, as we discussed earlier. White Sox move best when they're not detected. So, yes, I thought that answer earlier where you said, yep, called out to an agent or a player,
Right.
that was the money quote from me. That was the thing. I was like, I can feel the sly smile on behind that. Like, yeah, you guys just wait. Hold on. We got y'all. Come on now. And the reason why he's saying what he said right there in the clip we just heard is because, yes, their currently constituted roster will win the AL Central if healthy.
Sure.
I don't think anybody disputes that.
You get a ticket to the postseason.
And so that's how you're going to get a championship caliber team. Get in the tournament. That's it. And if they need to supplement somewhere, right field, second base, DH, starting pitcher, I think Rick has the ability, and Jerry Reinsdorf, where we discussed the other day, doesn't want to have his friend Tony La Russa lose again. He wants to put him in the best position to win. And so he'll allow Rick and Jeremy Haber and Kenny Williams to do their jobs correctly, hopefully this year. And Rick, I felt a little bit more confident that Rick is allowed to do his job in this offseason up until the season starts and then up until the trade deadline.
What else was said in that press conference that is interesting, I think, is he said, yeah, it's the first day of spring training, but it also feels like the winter meetings because of the volume of discussions that he's having with, be it player agents or front office members from other teams or whoever he needs to talk to get his, acquisitions done. He says it feels like the winter meetings, which is when a lot of this stuff happens. And so I think if you're out there worried that, we have a team that we think can win the World Series as is currently constituted, means that he's going, job well done. I'll sit back and watch the games from here on out. Right. Him telling you that it feels like the winter meetings should be a signal that it feels like there's a lot of trade and free agent conversations happening.
Well, and again, the money quote for Herb was that he called someone right away. So obviously there's action right there. I'm not saying that Rick Hahn is inactive, but it is just something. I don't know. I don't know if that's the right messaging. When you think about talking to a team, and obviously the last thing you want to say is like, I don't know if this team's complete when you are, the general manager of a team and have to see those 26 players, day in and day out. Exactly. Tomorrow.
Sorry, I was just looking to see if the White Sox had made a move.
No, they have not. I'll update you when they do. Anticipation, it's making me wait.
I mean, yesterday we were all negative about the season start, and then in our show, season's back. We're the key, guys. Watch us. We're the key for stuff happening.
Where news breaks.
Let's go.
And at any point, news can break is the vibe. But it does feel a little anticlimactic too. We were talking that once this opens, it's going to be a bum rush. We're going to have deals.
I think
we've got served Martin Perez.
I think we were unrealistic to ourselves to realize we know that baseball's hot stove, it moves slowly.
Yeah.
And
well,
yes, we did have that week before the lockout started where it was frenzied, and I thought we were just going to go right back to that. But we were naive. We were dumb. We know that baseball is going to take their time and get those players in when they can get them. And I would love for somebody to be signed today, but the right person to be signed.
Yeah, and Vinnie summed this up too. I don't know if this was from the chunk that we played, but this is where I think it's fair to leave off. Hahn on 2022 expectations. I don't think any of us would be doing our jobs properly if our aspirations weren't to win a championship and feeling we need to do everything in our power to win the World Series in 2022. There was no, at least, hindering speak or hindering a talk of well, we're not sure about this, we're not sure about that. It did feel very open, we know the moves that we're going to make. We're not going to tell you any of them.
And we might not make them all.
We might not make them all. We might not be able to make them all, but it does feel like there will be something to talk about at some point with the White Sox. And that's why tomorrow we'll also be live from the CHGO studios. Me and Herb will be here in Chicago. Herb might be at his place. I'll be here. And Vinny is going to be out in Arizona because he's got to go do his job. And that's great to talk about. So we will be having a show for you tomorrow. If any news breaks, if any free agents are signed by the White Sox, we will have a show for you, still discussing the time, but I think it's around 3:30. And we'll lock down a time, and we'll tweet it out from @CHGO_White Sox. Let's go to the next audio, though, because pitching rotation, something that you brought up first with the White Sox. Very interesting discussion, through the offseason with the White Sox fans talking about how they need to add pitching. It was nice to hear the first thing that Rick Hahn mentioned was pitching and pitching depth. I thought it was surprising. Let's hear Rick Hahn on pitching depth and a six-man rotation. Lawrence, let's go.
The combination of the shortened ramp up, the lack of dialogue over the last few months, as well as obviously our high expectations for this season, has created the expectation that pitching depth is going to be a priority. I think all 29 other clubs will probably say something similar in terms of trying to protect those very important elements of the club, but certainly from our perspective, being able to start the season off with the depth we need and build, hopefully for over 7+ months of baseball, having that pitching depth is going to be key.
Is it way too early to talk 6-man rotation, creative rotation approach, or is that something you hit kind of in the ground running?
We've had some internal conversations about that, and Ethan and Haas and Tony have played around with some different ideas. Now, again, as we understand exactly, say, where Lance Lynn or Michael Kopech or whomever is at in terms of their personal pacing towards the season and building towards the season, that's sort of once we're face to face, you can start talking about how viable some non-5-man rotation ideas may be.
So there's a lot in there that's interesting. First off, we had somebody reach out. Now, I don't have their username at the moment. But they were looking for an update on Lance Lynn. That's the closest that we got to an update on Lance Lynn. And I don't know if it's truly an update. But the fact that they're mulling a 6-man rotation, obviously Lance Lynn had some knee issues last year. I think there was talk about him possibly getting a scope. There was an update back in November, but we haven't gotten much yet. Players were able to meet with the MLB doctors throughout the lockout, but not a lot of updates just yet. I thought it was interesting that Lance Lynn was the first name that he brought up. Lance Lynn with his pacing, Michael Kopech with his pacing, anyone else with his pacing. But the fact that he mentioned Lynn specifically, why would they be discussing a 6-man rotation, especially because we've talked about them having 5 starters right now in Giolito, Cease, Kopech, Keuchel, and Lynn. So, why would a 6-man rotation even be being discussed right now? Is it lockout related? Is it shortened season related?
Yeah, I think it is, and I think the answer right there can be summed up in one word: maybe. Maybe there'll be a 6-man rotation. We'll see. And I think that is Rick doing something that he does all the time, which is don't take anything off the table, because guess what? They haven't been able to watch Lance Lynn pitch for 3 months. They haven't been able to talk to Lance Lynn for 3 months. He was on the mound today in Glendale, as we saw, from the tweets from the writers who are out there already, who I'll be joining tomorrow. But they haven't been able to sit down and analyze where Lance Lynn is health-wise. And so Rick Hahn right now, using the information that he has, which is very little compared to what he would have under normal circumstances, is going to say, maybe. We'll see. We'll see how he's doing. We'll see how Michael Kopech is doing. We'll see how everybody needs to be handled before we can establish how we're going to handle everybody as a whole. And I think that you might see a more creative approach because of the lockout and because of the effects on starting pitchers that I was talking about earlier in the show. But if that's not necessary, if they get to Glendale and they're like, everybody looks 100%, let's go, then I think you'll see a 5-man rotation, because I think pitchers probably prefer that.
Yes, Herb. Obviously, my thoughts immediately went, Carlos Rodon, the door's open, Carlos Rodon, he's coming back. Any thoughts kicking up in your head?
No, like when you say 6-man rotation, and I'm thinking about the current roster, I think Raylo. I think they're just like, Raylo had a great second half of the last year. He pitched the way we thought he would pitch going forward, going after 2018. He was looking good, and then he fell off the table. So I don't think it's going to be a traditional 6-man rotation. If even they do it, I think they're thinking about Michael Kopech and saying he probably can't post every 5th day, especially with being in the bullpen last year and being a spot starter. So we'll give him a break. Here's a Raylo start. Here's a Michael Kopech start. Not every 5th. And Lance Lynn, too, Lance Lynn wants to start every 5th.
Yeah.
Like, hey, every 5th day, my ball. I don't want to have to wait until somebody else pitches. No, that's my ball. If he's healthy, he's going to pitch. So it's not necessarily going to affect him or Giolito or Cease. I think that's more going to affect the guys at the back end. Like Keuchel might not be effective, or Kopech needs some rest. So you'll have Raylo. And I don't know if you're bringing back Carlos Rodon to be a part of a 6-man rotation. If Carlos Rodon's coming back, you're dropping one of those guys out. So it's Keuchel going somewhere else.
And to be fair, they did what you just described a lot last year.
Yeah, especially late in the season.
Because they had injuries that they had to work through. They had times, particularly with Carlos Rodon, where they wanted to give him as much rest between starts as possible, and they just drop in a Tony La Russa press conference one day, oh yeah, Rodon's not going to pitch again until Monday. We're going to have whoever go in his spot tomorrow or whatever. Right. So that happened a lot last year, and maybe that's just what you see again, is kind of that everybody be on your toes, we're going to figure this out on the fly kind of thing. To speak to the term pitching depth, I think the second word is more important than the first, to be quite honest. And I think that might point to the direction of what kind of moves Rick is talking about, what kind of moves that could be on the come here. I don't think that you're necessarily talking about Carlos Rodon or a pitcher of that caliber as much as you are someone who can provide depth.
Is your thing Carlos Rodon more, or is it hatred for Dallas Keuchel?
Oh, it's more Carlos Rodon.
Okay.
I was tweeting all throughout, especially, May and April, like every single time, especially like the New York start that he had in New York where he shut down the Yankees. Like, I was tweeting out Jerry Payham. That's been my vibe entirely watching Carlos Rodon in 2021. I think that he unlocked something. I think Ethan Katz unlocked something. I think that you finally saw the potential meet the person. Like, I think that you had that unlocked. You had confidence build up. You had everything just lined up the right way. And the only thing that hasn't lined up for him is health. And yes, that is a gamble, but he's been able to show you that he can at least give you 100+ innings at a time in a season. So maybe that plays into the factor too, because you don't have Crochet who can give you 4 innings, but maybe he can give you 3. Kopech might be able to give you 5 every 6. Raylo is good, but maybe he's not a starter good. Lance Lynn has some knee problems, so maybe to fill out that rotation, you do bring back Carlos Rodon. I don't know if that's going to happen though, because it might be a lot of money to add to this team.
Should be a lot of money.
You mentioned something else there that I think is impactful for this pitching depth discussion, and that is, look what became of Carlos Rodon and Dylan Cease thanks to an entire offseason and an entire spring of working with Ethan Katz last year. That is out the window for these guys this year, and maybe it's specifically we're talking about Michael Kopech. Maybe we're talking about everybody in that rotation because
it would help Cease, I think, too.
It would have helped Cease. It would have helped Giolito. It would have helped a lot of different guys working with Katz. You know what I'm saying? And I think that when you're talking about going out and getting depth, you might need guys to be able to do that because they might not be as effective as they would have had they had the time to work with Katz.
Giolito might be the only guy I'm not worried about not working with Katz, because I know that they're not supposed to talk to each other, but also they're best friends. So it's also
it'd be kind of weird if something happened at work and you weren't allowed to talk to one of your best friends for 3 months.
It'd be very odd to just be shut out from your old high school coach. Now I can't talk to my junior year science teacher, for the next 3 months.
I'm sure the White Sox had a plan for that. Katz probably gave them a program before the lockout started.
Rick mentioned that before the lockout started. Yeah.
Do this. I'll see you whenever. And I'm sure Lucas and Ethan met up every once in a while. There's no way to track that.
Burner phones. Just get burner phones.
Exactly.
Yeah, burner phones. Down the street in LA.
Just keep it in the DM.
Meet me at the ballpark. All right, click.
There's no paparazzi chasing Ethan Katz around, so just show up to a coffee shop and maybe you'll see Lucas Giolito and Ethan Katz.
Hey, you guys had a conversation and a brief coffee. That's gonna cost
someone
you.
in the coffee shop's like, hey, weren't you the worst pitcher in 2018?
Our guy Stephen B. Smith.
Thank you. And I think that just to wrap it up, your thoughts, Vinny, about maybe there's a 6-man rotation. All we have been able to do, whether it's podcasters, whether it's writers, whether it's Rick Hahn, the general manager of the White Sox, all you can do is think during the lockout, and that's all that they did. They're planning, they're thinking. Which, hey, that's good. At least they weren't taking it off. At least they weren't golfing or something like that. It is something that I think is interesting, though, just because I kind of theorized, I don't think Tony would be down for a 6-man rotation. It does seem like a little, non-traditional, non-conservative. I think that he likes having 5 guys that he can trust. Give me my 5 best starters each and every day.
I think what Herb said is more true, is that Lance Lynn would not be down for a 6-man rotation.
I think so, too. Let's first talk about...
real quick, look at Matty Ice here. I guess we don't need the wire burner phones. Apparently, FaceTime video has no logs.
Oh, there you go. And Ethan Katz can FaceTime. And we know Giolito's a Twitch streamer, so you can figure that out. Real quick, I want to mention our friends over at PointsBet. If you enjoy CHGO, one way to help us continue to grow is to download the PointsBet app and use code CHGO when you sign up. Not only are you going to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000, but if you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you'll receive a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of our web content, and you'll even get a free shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker. If you have any questions, email pointsbet@allchgo.com, and we'll help you out. And in case you missed it, online sign-up is available in Illinois. You can actually download the PointsBet app right now and register from your account, start to finish, all from your phone. You'll be signing up with the fastest sportsbook, easier than ever, so you can start living your bet life in seconds. So, what are you waiting for? Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. Now we're going to step into the shoes of Rick Hahn. We're going to play Rick Hahn for a day. We did it yesterday. Now we're picking...
Rick Hahn for 2 days.
Rick Hahn for 2 days. The very elaborate package that they don't offer. They always offer the GM for a day, but 2 days is you're pushing the envelope. But we're going to be doing what Rick Hahn's doing right now. He got off that Zoom and immediately started calling people, I bet. We're picking a free agent. We're talking about how they could help the White Sox. Herbie, I'm going to go to you first. You have the whole pick. Vinnie hasn't picked one. I haven't picked one yet. You can pick any free agent to add to the Chicago White Sox. Rick Hahn mentions pitching depth. I know fans want a right fielder. Vinnie wants a second baseman. What free agent you picking?
Well, if we're going to go for the upper echelon, we've already discussed the guy that I think most of us want. It's Kyle Schwarber. He fits in with this team perfectly. He's young. He's looking for a big-time deal. So a 1-year deal, prove it again, off of his year he had with the Washington Nationals and the Boston Red Sox would be ideal for the White Sox. He can fit in either right field. He's got a nice arm. Even though he doesn't play right field necessarily, he's more of a left fielder. Mm-hmm. He can have right there for a designated hitter for the White Sox. I think Kyle Schwarber would be the perfect marriage for the White Sox and himself. He can get his value reevaluated, and next year go for his 3 to 4 to 5 year extension deal. And he's still in his youth, and he's still like 28, 29.
Yeah, he's 29.
Yeah, and so he's right. He's ripe for the taking. I would love for the White Sox to go out and get Kyle Schwarber. It'll be perfect. And I was going more the catchers initially, but I know you guys want more of a big splash person. I was going like Robinson Chirinos or
well, that's
Kurt
fine.
Suzuki.
I mean, it's pick a free agent.
Just
because those are free agents.
I just don't like the White Sox backup catcher situation. So whatever veteran catcher, and you're asking, is Kurt Suzuki better than Zach Collins? Yes. I'm better than Zach Collins. Come on now.
I don't know about that.
You don't think I can hit better than Zach Collins?
I'm not trying. I'm not trying.
I can run better than no one.
Look, I'm not trying to be rude to anybody on this panel, but I know that if I needed to crouch for even like 5 minutes in a catcher position, I would not be able to do that. So even for 3 innings, I don't even think I could do Zach Collins' job. I don't want to talk too much crap about being able to catch. I just don't
feel like falling off the table from Yasmani Grandal, who I think is a elite top-level catcher. And, he does not catch well sometimes, and framing is a little off sometimes, and catching balls that are thrown to him sometimes are problems. But you fall off the table from him to Sebi Zavala or Zach Collins. So I would just want a replacement level catcher. Kurt Suzuki is that in his old age, 38. Robinson Chirinos. So you can get one of the Romine brothers. Austin Romine, I think, is the shortstop, and I think the other one is the catcher. So whichever base level, replacement level catcher is available out there, won't cost you a lot of money, and they'll play 40 games this year.
Yeah,
fine.
I don't love Suzuki. The backup catcher market is extremely thin. I was looking up Ronnie Freeman to see if he would have been a viable option. Exactly. No, I spent 2 hours trying to figure out.
Is he related to Freddie?
Who the hell is Ronnie Freeman?
Ronnie Freeman, backup catcher for the Sacramento River Cats.
But
and the
not
Giants
related to Freddie,
He's the Sacramento River Cats backup catcher.
Yeah, but that's the options you need to look at.
So he's the number 4 at best catcher on the Giants.
A 31-year-old who never made his MLB debut. I mean, that's the options I'm looking for. I'm trying to find you the best one. Jimbo says Chicago's fascination with backup catcher and QP is eternal, which is true. But it is a need. I love Schwarber. That's a name that I've brought up before. I think that if you put him in guaranteed right field with the park factors for right field, home runs are a premium in guaranteed right field. They need to take advantage of it, and I think you need to take advantage of it at home ballpark. You put Kyle Schwarber in it, you're going to have 50 home runs from him, I think. And you look at Kyle Schwarber, 50.
In one season.
50 in one season if he's healthy.
50 home runs.
If you're giving him the DH position, with right field at guaranteed right field, you will see a big donkey, 50 home runs, Adam Dunn style. The only players, there's 17 players in the MLB to hit over 30 home runs last year, have over 60 walks, and have an OPS plus of over 130. Kyle Schwarber was one of them. He did, and the names are Freddie Freeman, Paul Goldschmidt, Giancarlo Stanton, Bryce Harper, Max Muncy. Ronnie Freeman. Yeah. You're adding a premium bat to the White Sox, and I love the Schwarber addition. That would have been my pick, so you stole that one from me, Herbie. Who's your free agent if you're picking one?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I think I agree with you guys. I think that makes a ton of sense. I think it would be more of an everyday DH situation probably. Obviously, these days, nobody's really an everyday DH anymore, maybe besides the last we saw of Edwin Encarnacion.
Nelson Cruz, who's
but
not
yeah,
in the league
Nelson
anymore.
Cruz. But yeah, but I think that would work. I think there's a lot of other areas that they can go. I've talked about how I think they need to add some more to the bullpen. I would love to see that. Herb, a guy you've mentioned a lot, is Colin McHugh, and I think somebody who can have some innings as well as some effective relief pitching would be very valuable for this team to make it more than just Reynaldo Lopez, when innings are needed there. I will talk about Chris Bryant because I think Chris Bryant would be I think he would solve that problem that I've been talking about of them needing a bat. You know what I mean? And I think you drop Chris Bryant into this lineup and people are going to be scared. And I think it'd be very strange because everybody here in Chicago knows him as a third baseman. He would probably be the everyday right fielder if he were to come to the White Sox, which is fine. A lot of versatility there, though, that he can be moved around to wherever Tony La Russa wants him, who loves that versatility, does Tony. So I think that would be a very good add. Obviously, Chris Bryant is about to get a lot of money, and someone might want to pay it a little more than a team that's already got a very good offensive lineup in the White Sox. But he would be quite the addition. I think that it is maybe not the most pressing need of theirs to go get a guy like Chris Bryant, but that would be something.
I tried to manifest it during the trade deadline last year. Like I was wishing on Stones. I was trying to grow. I was trying to get Chris Bryant on the White Sox. I was trying to do all this crazy stuff.
You were wishing on Steve Stone.
Yeah, wishing on Steve Stone too. Yeah, I had this little stone that my girlfriend gave me, and then I was also wishing on Steve Stone as well. Shout out to Steve Stone.
Hold on, we're gonna need to explore this Stone thing. Maybe not today, but
we're blowing past it, Lawrence.
So no, we're not blowing past it. So
weird.
there's girls are into like not all girls. I mean, not girls. That's way too. It's
Oh,
way too
boy.
black and white.
All
But
right.
at least my girlfriend
of the day.
At least my girlfriend is into astrology and into some stones and stuff. And she gave me the stone because I'm short. I'm 5'8", 5'9" on a good day. I was trying to grow a couple inches, so she gave me the stone to wish, and you're manifesting through the stone. Didn't work. I'm still 5'8", and also didn't work because Chris Bryant's not on the White Sox. So I said I did it. It didn't work.
Which one was it? Ronnie? Mick?
It was Keith. Yeah, it was Keith. Yeah, that's
the best stone. So
that's my girlfriend's favorite stone, so we'll go with Keith. And obviously we have the YouTube chat, so throw out any free agents. Pick a free agent, throw them up. Lawrence will pop them up on the
or
screen.
Or stones. Throw out your favorite stone.
Throw out your favorite stone. Is it Steve? Is it Charlie Watts? Who knows?
Rest in peace, Charlie.
Yep.
If I have to pick a free agent I want to talk about real quick, Michael Conforto, adding to the right field. I think right field's fine. I think they can get by with Engel, Vaughn, and Sheets. Adding Schwarber to DH solves that position, and you have not been able to solve that position, and you have 3 shots to solve it in right field then with Engel, Vaughn, and Sheets. I think you could figure that out. Now, with Conforto, though, he is a name that I think would easily solve that position and then lead you to having Vaughn and Sheets in maybe more comfortable positions at a DH. And it's a nice platoon with the lefty-righty there. So I think Conforto would be the cleanest way to solve the White Sox problems, because then you have DH figured out, you have right field figured out, second base it becomes still an issue. But I think that they're fine with Leary at second base, or at least that's what I think the vibe is from the Sox. I think Rick Hahn's fine with.
If you're getting a second baseman, you got to trade for one at this point.
Yes.
There are no more enticing free agents second baseman out there.
Was it Brad Miller is available?
Brad Miller is like the one.
Yeah,
the former Bull.
Brad Miller hits the shot, comes going back. I always thought this would be great if our Bulls guys were here, but I always thought, the famous Jordan wingspan poster. I always wanted the Brad Miller hits the 3 against the Celtics as the wingspan poster. I thought that would have been great.
I mean, Jed Lowry's out there too. I mean, Jed Lowry, if you think that the A's bounce back in 2021 was a real thing, I mean, he's still out there. He's a veteran guy, switch hitter. So you got double switch hitters then at second base.
I mean, he's better than Lurie, but I don't think it's a.
But he's no Gleyber Torres.
I don't know. Yeah, he's not no Gleyber. But also, I don't know if he's better than Leary, because Leary gives you more versatility. I mean, Jed Lowry can play second base, and Leary can give you outfield, and third, shortstop, second.
Right, but you need a second baseman because then Leary can go do all that stuff.
All right. Fred says the number 1 pick is Emma Stone in the Stone draft.
No mention of Sharon yet?
No mention. Oh, there's Greg Miller mentioning Sharon Stone. Yeah. We got 1 minute left. Keith Richards definitely from Courtney. Romancing the Stone mentioned by Matt Ryan as well. No one wants free agents. Bryant. Well, here I'll go to one serious one. Bryant would be more valuable than a free agent because in the event of an injury, the Sox would have the versatility to fill in for an injury to someone like Moncada.
Absolutely,
which is
that's
true.
A valuable asset.
Even if Jose Abreu goes down, knock on wood, and I know I'm number 1 Jose Abreu hater. Chris Bryant has versatility everywhere. So, I mean, that's definitely the easiest way to fix the White Sox problems is just by having a guy who could do it all.
Brian give you a couple innings on the mound too, probably.
Think
Maybe you could back up Yaz.
should we do that?
Yes.
Should we do that real quick? Just real briefly before we end this. Just a position player draft for the White Sox. If you have to put one position player on the White Sox on the mound, who would it be?
Leary.
In stereo.
Obviously,
I said
Leary.
it simultaneously.
Yeah.
It's obviously Uri. That's the answer. Someone said Stone Cold Steve Austin for right field. Hell yeah, brother. This is CHGO White Sox. You can follow us on Twitter at CHGO_White Sox. And as Lawrence put up, we are happy to be back. Liam Hendriks smiling on the mound.
Earmuffs.
It's great to see him swearing his ass off on the mound. This is the CHGO White Sox podcast presented by PointsBet. Again, use the code CHGO when you sign up to live your bet life. For Vinnie Duber, who will be going into Arizona tomorrow. Safe travels, my friend. You can follow him on Twitter at Vinnie Duber. He'll have all this great content for you, all this great spring training content for you on Twitter. Go follow him
Get a
at
nice
Vinnie
tan, too?
Duber. Yes, he's going to come back with a nice tan. We're going to be so jealous of him.
I mean, I'll be fine.
You sweat a little bit too much for Arizona, huh?
Yes.
Herb Lawrence is the man in the middle. You can follow him on Twitter at Ecknerwall23. I'm Sean Anderson. You can follow me on Twitter at Sean_W_Anderson. Thank you all for participating in our live chat. You made this very, very special and have made this first week very, very special. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll tweet out a time from at CHGO_White Sox. But again, thank you so much to all of you for watching. Thank you to PointsBet for being our presenting sponsor. And we will talk to you tomorrow for more White Sox baseball.